So refrigerator, Joe here counted a refrigerator with no cooling, and he did some good troubleshooting steps. You checked compressor amps and things like that. In fact, his
Yes.
troubleshooting was almost entirely focused on the compressor itself.
And there's a
Um,
lot more going on in a sealed system than the compressor. It's kind of the star of the show. It creates the high pressure and the low pressure side of the system. But there's a lot of other things going on too. You got to think about heat transfer, heat being moved from the inside of the box to the outside of the box. Where does that heat get rejected? Okay, it's a pop quiz for you guys. So I'm pulling heat out of the inside of the box and I'm dumping it to the outside. Where am I dumping that heat?
which
Condenser.
component? Yeah, condenser.
Condenser.
Condenser, correct.
Dancing. Yeah.
Yes. So so if I go back there, first thing I'm on a warm refrigerator job. First thing I'm doing is I'm half splitting between am I dealing with a sealed system problem or a control problem? And like what's a quick and easy check to know if I'm you got just like we have to know about electricity and electrons and how they move around, we have to know about heat and how heat moves around. So I've got a warm box. What's an easy test I can do to know if that sealed system is moving warm air from inside the box to the outside of the box?
I
The
don't.
condenser is warm, it's thrown off the heat, isn't it?
Did you say condenser?
If the condenser is warm, it's thrown off the
Correct.
heat.
Correct. That's an easy,
Correct.
and you didn't do this. This is an easy thing you could, it's a screening test. That's all. It's not necessarily diagnostically conclusive, but it does tell you that this sealed system is not moving heat from inside the box to the condenser, where it
Yep.
can be rejected to the outside air.
And that doesn't necessarily tell you the problem is with the sealed system because there are things like airflow, like fans, that can affect heat transfer in the
Right.
sealed
What's the
system.
purpose of the evaporator fans? It's not just to distribute air around the box, but it's a very important thing that it does for the evaporator. Remember what's going on in the evaporator? You've got liquid refrigerant being fed to the top of that evaporator from the cap tube. And as it
Hmm.
makes its way down to the bottom, it starts boiling. Why does it boil?
It's absorbing heat.
Correct. You are correct, sir. And what makes that heat reach that refrigerant so it can start boiling?
The airflow.
Yeah, exactly. So that evaporator fan, the most important thing it's doing is moving air, warm air inside the box. We call that warm air inside the box. It doesn't matter what temperature it is. That's the compartment air. It's always warm air. It's moving that inside the box. That as that air gets dragged across those tubes in the evaporator coil, and so that's why it's got the fins on it, help it pick up the heat and transmit that heat to the refrigerant that's inside the tube. The liquid refrigerant feels that heat and starts boiling at a really low temperature. It's literally boiling. By the time it gets to the bottom, it's all gas. It's superheated gas, and it goes back to the compressor as superheated gas. You want it superheated because you don't want liquid getting back to your compressor because that ruins a compressor.
Yeah.
But look at some of these pictures.
Oh yeah, yeah. So we got these pictures. He's doing all of his tests and stuff. I want to pause here on this one.
Anybody see anything weird?
Yeah. Anything odd you see? There's a little detail that one of the techs in the topic picked up.
Toss him back to the compressor.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Very good.
Which tells you
Um,
your compressor's moving vapor. So, I see frost back on a suction line. Well, I've either got an overcharge, which would not be the case in this one because it's not been serviced before, it was 2021, or I've got a heat transfer problem inside the box. I'm not picking up enough heat inside the box. So if I've got that refrigerant, it won't boil unless heat is making it boil. And if it's not contacting the heat, what could make it not contact heat? He said the
Fan,
coil. What's that, Wally? Go ahead. Sorry.
the fan
Yeah. And
moving the air.
he did not mention if the fan was running or not. Yeah, he did say that the coils were not iced in. And I presume he meant evaporator coils were not iced in.
yeah.
So because the excessive frost built up on there, that acts as an insulator, and that will also stop heat transfer. The compartment air can no longer contact the bare metal of the evaporator coil in order to heat up that refrigerant.
Yep. That's why in a no defrost problem, you start getting a warm box.
Right.
Or if there's some kind of flap that controls the temperature, like on the old Maytag Whirlpool, there was a door opening. I mean, the fan was running, but if the modulating door flap
Oh, the damper.
damper, that's
Yeah.
the word.
Right, right. Because if you can't have airflow between the compartments, then air's not going to move. You're just going to kind of the pressure is going to keep the air from moving.
Gonna be dead air. Yeah. So
Yep.
your fans got no supply air to move.
Yep.
And fans are all about pushing air. And you don't have a circuit for the air. It's like you need circuit for electrons, you need a circuit for the air to move.
So unfortunately, due to what it sounds like some bad advice from the manufacturer, yeah, the customer said that they talked to the factory guy, gave them the troubleshooting that Joe had done, and the guy at the factory said, "Oh yeah, it's absolutely the compressor. We'll just take care of that under warranty." So the customer's gonna get a warranty repair on the sealed system, get a new compressor, and it's probably not going to fix the problem because the only situation in which it would be a sealed system problem that would produce the frosted suction line would be an overcharge, but we've already eliminated that that could be the case.
And how would a bad compressor produce a frost line on the suction line? Frost going back on the suction line almost to the compressor.
But really, it would have been what would have been ideal is if Joe had checked the evaporator fan during his troubleshooting, because then we would know for sure if the evaporator fan, if the evaporator fan is running, then sure, I guess it has to be a problem with the sealed system. But
Right. So that's really what we should be getting out of this one is what else should you check? The obvious things that you should check on a warm box service call. And again, you're half splitting between the sealed system and the controls. And part of that sealed system, it requires normal airflow across those evaporator coils for heat transfer. And no heat picked up in the box, no heat rejected at the condenser. Room temperature condenser, we got a problem with heat transfer somewhere. You know, that coupled with the suction with the frost on the suction line tells me it's a heat transfer problem.
I don't know. You said something about, did it say something in the beginning about the jazz board?
yeah, he did check.
I think
I think this is what he said.
once froze to the thing where there was a problem with the jazz board that it wouldn't work the fan.
Well, that's interesting.
That's
Jazz
more
board's
history.
famous for weird failures like that.
That is interesting. That would tie in nicely with what we're seeing here.
No, you had a post on that once.
Oh, that was so long ago I forgot.
Was that the one? Was that the one with the jazz board where you?
I think he jumped a wire or
It was
something.
the
I
loading meter.
did, yes.
The
And
loading meter,
I
right?
jumped it with, I used a jumper, and then at first I did it with my loading meter, and and the fan came on, but not at full speed because the loading meter was dropping some of the voltage, and then the fan was getting a portion of that voltage, not its full operating voltage. So that's why it sounded weird when I ran it. But then when I just used a regular jumper wire, that fan ran normally, which told me open relay on the jazz board in the jazz board. Thank you, Michael, for reminding me of that.
So yeah, no, that's actually a great thing that you keyed in on there, Michael, is that it is a jazz unit, which automatically should cue you to check for loads that aren't being run when they're supposed to run.
Yeah, and I'm just looking for a lot of times it's harder to know something that's not happening or something that's omitted, like in specifications. So when you're doing your checks inside the box, that's one of the first things you should listen for. You may have to trick out the door, but or maybe you can hear it when you first open the door. You need to listen for air motion. That air movement is critical to the proper operation of the sealed system. It's not just for blowing cold air around.